So today we're going to be talking about a game called Drova Forsaken Kin. I do believe that some people are going to absolutely love this game, while other people might find it a little bit too difficult or even just wish it was a little bit more polished. I'm definitely excited for the comments down below because I'll just be curious how people receive this game or they think about games like this. It is more of like a CRPG, something along the lines of like Divinity, Baldur's Gate, or some of the games like that. And just a quick note, for the video, I'll be using early gameplay or trailers. I don't want to ruin anything for anyone. I do that for almost all of my videos, but I just wanted to address that because there was a few people in some of my older videos that commented like, man, you're really early on in the game. Like, no, I just didn't use any late game footage. I just restarted for the video itself. I don't want to ruin the experience for anyone, but I also have to thank the publishers for hooking me up with the review copy so that I had ample time to play the game. And trust me, with this one, you need it. But before we get started, please hit that like and subscribe button and help this channel grow. It means the world to me. And of course, you be put on that infamous Christmas card list. Anyway, let's just get into the game. So this game has you create a character. And once you've created the character, you're imported into this very struggling village. There is not much working out for anyone, and it's pretty much in dire straits as it's just a struggle to survive. However, you do stumble across a couple druids working with something. They're transporting this crystal and they're moving it somewhere, and so you decide to follow them, see what's going on. Unfortunately for you, they end up starting a ritual that in fact takes you to a different realm. Once transported to this realm, you sense evil and things just becoming very unsettling. Well, unfortunately, the druids, who you do stumble upon again, happen to basically be dead and or dying, and you inherit that red crystal. Now, before you have much time to even think about that, you find yourself in Drova, a world that is ran by two different factions, and you can join one or the other. Either way, it affects the entire gameplay, so it's kind of important to kind of think about that, or maybe just be prepared for another gameplay, because that's kind of where I'm at with it, as I am currently on my second gameplay. And the main reason why is because it's not only which side you choose, it's also the choices you make in dialogue that actually change how the game plays out. And as you immerse yourself in this world, there is a ton of dialogue and a ton of NPCs. There's a lot of different decisions and choices that you can make, but I actually think one of the biggest bright spots of this game is actually your ability to just explore, just go wherever you want. Now, don't get me wrong, you will run into enemies that will just completely end you with a little effort, but it's part of that exploration that actually makes the game really engaging, because there's just so much to do, there's so much content put in here. And in fact, for me, it's where I got lost the most, but lost in a really good way, as I kind of put off the main story after a little while and just found myself really enjoying doing a lot of the side quests and kind of learning more about the world on my own without being told about it. And I absolutely think that's probably one of the best things about the game. It has that type of environment that you can just get lost in, and again, in the best way possible. Also, practicing combat has been another thing that I did a lot in the game, because when you do first start, it is a little bit stiff. It's hard to explain exactly what I mean by that, but there is a timing to it, and it's not one of those games that you can just hack and slash. You do have to watch what you're doing. I think in many ways it reminded me of Morbid, the Seven Acolytes, where it was compared to as a Souls-like, but it's not as hard. It does have some of the same mechanics as far as like you can't just allow yourself to be beaten to a pulp. You do have to try to defend and parry. Things like that are very prevalent in the combat, and so there was a number of hours that I spent just really having fun doing that. Now, I could see if some people hate that style of combat and hate dying, that they're not going to enjoy that. And there are some ways to circumvent that a little bit, namely like using ranged weapons or even magic when it becomes available, and really mastering that system could probably really help as far as the difficulty of hand-to-hand combat. And of course, like every good RPG, there's also just a myriad of weapons and equipment that you can put on, and that does lead me to one of my complaints, is that there is a little bit of gatekeeping or limitations, if you will, as there's a system that only allows you to wear the equipment that you're powered up to. So you can't just put any piece of armor on. Like, you can't find a super powerful sword or helm or something like that and put that on. You have to also be at a certain power ranking, so to speak, or certain level. And that for me was a little bit of a kick in the Harry Styles, just because it sort of limited, or let's say regressed, my exploration a little bit. Now, honestly, that's not such a huge deal. I don't mind games that do that. Borderlands does, certain games do that, and really it just gives you something to look forward to, but it does feel a bit limiting at times. Although combat is not the only skill that you have different abilities and talents that help you. Now, the talents themselves you're able to unlock and upgrade, as with the abilities, on some of them, they need to be taught to you. So things like lock picking, you have to find a teacher to teach you how to do it before you can unlock lock picking, as it were. And those can all be honed to a certain extent, and just like with magic, become more efficient or become more powerful. I will say a lot of this doesn't really pick up until about 2 or 3 hours into the game. For me, it was a little bit underwhelming. The pacing was a little off as the game started, and it was just a bit of a slog early on, and your abilities as well as like your equipment just are very, very base. So like, you don't have a sword, for instance, you have like a branch, like, and it does pick up. Not only does the equipment, the abilities, talents, all that pick up, but also just your interactions and all the different factions or villages, groups of people, tribes that you run into. That all becomes incredibly expansive relatively early on, but like I said, for that first 2 hours or so, it does get a little dull. But once you get past that, honestly, I really enjoyed it, and for me, it felt like that's when the game really started to open up. Now, it's not perfect, and there was some issues I had with the game. For instance, there is no voiceover at all. And I think it really needs it, especially because of all of the dialogue. And the fact that when you pair all of the dialogue along with the art style, at times it can be difficult to really cling on to a character. Like, they don't really stand out, not for a while, because with the art style, it's not the best looking 2D pixel art. It could be a little bit more defined, and I get it, it's from a small team and I don't blame them. But then they don't even have a voice to really open up some of these characters, so some of the characters don't really stand out as much as they could, but I think if they had their own voice or a different voice, it could help quite a bit. And on that note, I had to change the text size to like large. And honestly, I don't think I've ever had to do that in any other game, but it was just so small, it was incredibly hard to read. I also would like a little bit of a prompt, hey, go over here, this is where you finish your quest. Things like that would make the game flow a little bit better, which again, I understand some people, and especially people who enjoy these style of games, they don't like the hand holding. And I get you. I totally do. But for me, it would just make things a little bit easier to enjoy. Like, I wouldn't be worried in the back of my mind, okay, but I want to do these side quests, but I really need to figure out where I need to go. I really need to find this person because that's part of my main quest. And it actively takes an effort on my part to turn that part of my brain off. So yeah, I would enjoy it. It would help me a little bit more. And I think some people who would want to get into this genre also would prefer a little bit of hand holding in that way. And of course, I will address the biggest issue with this game, and that is there's no male and female. It's body type 1 and body type 2. Actually, no, I don't give a crap, and I don't understand why people do. In fact, I didn't even realize it was a controversy with the game until I was looking something up right before this video. But honestly, the game is getting review bombed by some people just for that one issue. Like, that's so ridiculous because, well, there are things that need to be polished. Well, I would prefer voiceovers, a little bit more defined pixel art. But ultimately, it's a really good game, and you can tell it was made with a lot of care by a very small team. But these people are really going to complain about that. Like, they're going to review bomb it for that. Like, as gamers, we complain about, like, live service games. We complain about the price. We complain about the fact that most games aren't even done anymore, and they require 1 million patches. They don't offer enough content. They're already making DLC when they're finishing up the game. Out of all those things, this is what you complain about with this game? This small team made this really awesome game, and you're gonna bomb it over that? Like, you morons. I'm sorry. It makes me honestly like the game more, has me rooting for it more, just because the fact that, like, yeah, it's 30 to 50 hours long. It was done, like I said, by a small team. You could tell they really took a lot of care in this game, and hopefully they do add some other stuff. Maybe you touch up the visuals a little bit, like that would be cool. But again, for people to put out honest, hard work, and then this is why you have a big complaint, I don't know. I'm done with my rant. I'm not going to continue on with that anymore. It's ridiculous to me. But anyway, I really did like the game. I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. I think if you like this style of game, you're going to love this one. It is a throwback to, like I said, Baldur's Gate and some of those classic CRPGs. And honestly, I would recommend picking it up. If you're somewhat interested in, this is a good game to buy. Because the team themselves, like I said many times over now, really took a lot of time to make this game. It's a very fair price, like $24.99, and there's just a lot of content to it. So the worst thing that can happen is you just don't really like the game style, but this could be one of those games that could get you into a CRPG. I don't know, that's just my thoughts. If nothing else, definitely one to think about wishlisting, unless you just completely hate this style of game, then I totally get you. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Please tell me in the comment section below. Is this a game that you're interested in, you've read about, or just never even heard of? Or have you already played it? Anything and everything in the comment section is much appreciated. By the way, if you made it this long, comment Drova down below for your chance to win a $10 eShop card. Anyway, I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.